How do you follow up a historic season that finally gave your fans something to root for the first time in 30 years? You go all in. A quarterback playing at an elite level on a rookie contract, your franchise legend wideout re-signed with even more help arriving via trade. On the other side of the ball, you keep doing what worked for you last year. Sign veterans and slowly build the roster out in your image while correcting the mistakes of those that came before you. The Washington Commanders have played their best hand possible in 2025. Yet, at the midpoint of the season, they look like a lost cause. It is an uncomfortable reality that many fans have to confront. Less than a year out from an NFC Championship game appearance, the Commanders' super team is failing. As with any historically dysfunctional franchise, you can always argue that the root cause of current issues lies in the distant past. In 2024, it appeared as if the new brain trust in DC wouldn't have to pay for the sins of the Dan Snyder era. But in 2025, it's finally coming back to bite them. Adam Peters and the current front office were able to pave over the cracks in the roster with some savvy veteran additions like Zach Ertz, Frankie Louvu, and Bobby Wagner in free agency. Each of them performed brilliantly in their first year with the Commanders, and considering their advanced age, it seems entirely reasonable to keep them on board on short-term deals, then try to make the most of what else was on this roster. And the 2025 offseason acquisitions were clear indications of the organization's ambition to improve and even get to the Super Bowl in year 2 of the rebuild. A mid-season trade for Marshon Lattimore to strengthen the secondary sounded exciting, before they pivoted and focused on arming and protecting Jayden Daniels. First came the trade for Deebo Samuel, sending a 5th rounder to San Francisco for his services, before 5-time Pro Bowl left tackle Laremy Tunsil joined from Houston for a 3rd and 7th round selection in 2025, as well as 2nd and 4th rounders in the 2026 draft. This left them with just 5 picks in the 2025 draft, which drastically shrank their talent pool. This would be a major problem if, for instance, you encounter an injury crisis. But more on that later. Washington wasn't done there, bringing in Dietrich Wise, Jacob Martin, Javon Kinlaw, and Eddie Goldman to beef up the D-line and help them out in run defense, one of their biggest flaws in 2024. Perhaps the biggest name that they signed in free agency was Von Miller, who is 36 years old. But age has never been an issue for this front office. After all, it worked last year, and they were going all in on winning now. All of these moves were great, but there was one particularly bad omen for how this season would go during training camp. It all started with a wide receiver. Now, most of the time, when a diva wide receiver holds out for a contract, a team's fan base is divided between those who want to pay up and keep him around, and those who are willing to take their chances with someone cheaper who brings less baggage. Terry McLaurin has been the wide receiver 1 since 2019 and is anything but a diva. He's been in Washington through thick and thin, from 3-win seasons to the NFC Championship. So when he earned second-team All-Pro honors in year 6 as a focal point of this offense and Jayden Daniels' favorite target, he was seen as completely justified in sitting out of training camp. To fans and the national media, this was a no-brainer. Extend McLaurin for what he's worth.
There's a number out there. They have to land on it. They have to. They cannot go into Jayden Daniels' second year and say, hey, guess what? The way you did everything last year and you went to heights that few people, other than maybe us and you and your family, thought you could get to as a rookie in the NFL. And the guy who helped in that process, probably in more ways than you even know, off the field, you're gonna take that guy away from him over a money deal.
Conveniently enough, when it came to placing their trust in a franchise cornerstone, age all of a sudden became an issue. McLaurin turned 30 in September, and there has never been a wide receiver who played well into their 30s. Needless to say, the disrespect here was blatant.
It's a business. Is it hard for you to separate the business from the emotion here?
Of course, to a certain degree when you feel you have a way of feeling that what you've proven up until this point, and when you see that is put in front of you of how somebody perceives you or values you, that's disappointing. You know what I mean? It's a little bit disrespectful to me. And again, like the front office, the ownership, they have to do what's best for the team. I understand that, but I also know what I bring to a team, and I feel like I've proven that day in, day out. There hasn't been anything that they've asked me to do since they've been here that I have not done willingly, openly.
This was brutal stuff. Hell, you can almost hear his voice cracking in interviews where McLaurin gives his side of the story, because it got pretty scary. In late July, Terry requested a trade. He was eventually signed on a new $96 million 3-year extension and returned to practice in late August, but spending that much time away from the guys and off the field was going to cost him. We've seen the likes of Jamar Chase and Brandon Ayuk struggle to get going early in the season after their respective contract holdouts, and early on, it appears that Terry McLaurin is doomed to that same fate. In week 1, he had just 2 catches, and just as he finally started looking like his usual self in week 3, McLaurin picked up a quad injury that has kept him out for most of 2025. That time spent sitting out has clearly cost the Commanders' offense, and the worst part is that it was completely avoidable. It was widely reported that McLaurin was hoping for a deal in the region of $30 million per year, which is exactly what Washington eventually settled on. If they had simply paid up for a man who will likely go down as a franchise legend, who knows, maybe we could see Terry and Deebo firing on all cylinders. And oh boy, that is just the beginning of this team's injury woes. RB1 Austin Eckler tore his Achilles just 2 games into the season, while defensive starters such as Dietrich Wise and safety Will Harris landed on IR by week 3, where both men, who are, you guessed it, over the age of 30, have remained since. And that is just the tip of the iceberg. Important depth pieces such as Jonathan Jones, Dorrance Armstrong, and Javonte Jean-Baptiste have missed multiple games. To add insult to injury, Marshon Lattimore tore his ACL in week 9 against the Seahawks, which rules him out for the remainder of the season. Somehow, Lattimore wasn't the only player that they potentially lost for the season that night. An offense that spent much of 2025 without QB1 Jayden Daniels due to knee and thigh issues struggled against Mike Macdonald's defense, putting up just 7 points in 3 quarters as opposed to the Seahawks' 38. Washington inexplicably kept their starters in the entire game when it was clearly out of reach, which set the stage for a painful episode of deja vu at Northwest Stadium. Jayden Daniels goes down with a horrific arm injury, leaving in a brace on a meaningless drive. And that sums up the Commanders' season in a nutshell. Right guard Sam Cosmi described the palpable shift in the crowd afterwards.
Gut-wrenching. I mean, you could just hear the air being taken out of everybody in the stadium. I mean, it's just not a good feeling to see that.
A dislocated elbow all but guarantees his 2025 is over. But it's the context in which the injury occurred that has drawn the most criticism.
And we're going to get into the ball game, but I got one question that I want to ask DQ, Dan Quinn. Why in the hell was Jayden Daniels in the game? You're down 38-7.
Right.
This is why you remove your starters, especially, you can't remove all of them.
Right.
Some of your offensive linemen and some of the guys are going to have to play.
They got to stay.
But you get Jayden Daniels' ass out of there.
Mm-hmm.
He's been nicked all year. Why was he in the game? So you actually think you're going to score 31 points in 8.5 minutes?
Absolutely not.
The harsh truth is that we should have seen this coming since before the preseason. The Terry McLaurin contract dispute, banking everything on playmakers on the wrong side of 30, and praying that Jayden Daniels, an undersized QB to begin with, could avoid injuries, a sophomore slump, and continue to perform heroically is not a winning formula.
This has been a mess in Washington since the start of the training camp, and that's why they are where they are. They continue to call man coverage when they can't play camp. No, he shouldn't have been in the game. It's 38-7, and you surely aren't having him carry the football. This is a damning moment on this organization that a year ago was on a rocket ship. Everything was riding high, and since then, since that loss in the NFC title game, it's been question mark after mishandling, after just kind of this steady decline, and this is a bad sign for an organization that was headed in the right direction.
That's what is most distressing to the Commanders' faithful. Just as it seems that things are turning around after eons of disappointment, it feels like more of the same. It's a good sign that Dan Quinn took responsibility for Daniels getting injured on that play, and even for running an option play with your starters in the game down by 31 points with less than 8 minutes left. But for a franchise cursed with gruesome quarterback injuries, from Joe Theismann to RG3 and Alex Smith, accountability isn't quite enough. The standard should simply be protecting your QB, who was already playing through knocks this year. Winning is always the priority. But there is a fine line between never saying die and just straight up recklessness.
Yeah, it's football. I'm going to say that. I know he don't want to hurt his superstar quarterback. He should have had him out the game. They're down 31 points with 7 minutes left. They're on the red zone. He's trying to score. I get it. But as a coach, hey, man, he apologized. What you want him to say? Right? And I hear what you're saying, but
That's not enough.
so, I mean, so if he don't make every right call, this is what we going to do with him? Like, yo, he made a mistake. I watch coaches on the other side make mistakes and don't own up to it. I watched it like that too. So I got a lot of respect for Dan Quinn. I love Jayden Daniels. I'll just say this: he should have had him out the game. There's no reason for him to be in the game. But my thing is, damn, you killing him for even apologizing?
Shady makes a crucial point here. Football is an inherently violent game. Instead of pinning everything on the coaching decisions, the true downfall of this Commanders super team was its foundational ideas. Recruiting all of these veterans has limited short-term upside, while in the long term, Washington are essentially shooting themselves in the foot. Then the McLaurin saga, against the backdrop of their veteran recruitment strategy, was blatantly hypocritical, an awful look, and spoiled some of the goodwill they had built with their fan base after the magical 2024 season. This is not to take anything away from what they did in the playoffs last year. Dan Quinn and Adam Peters deserve to be celebrated for that. However, they also need to be held accountable for their gamble on veterans in 2025, which has gone terribly wrong. Like we said, injuries are a part of football, but in failing to prepare with young, hungry backups, the 2025 Commanders super team is effectively just a retirement home with a cluttered IR. They are more or less living through the worst case scenario by wasting one of Jayden Daniels' years on his rookie contract and doubling down on a strategy that worked for them last year, but against all odds. There's still hope for next season, but a change in approach will be needed. Peters and Quinn are obviously capable of taking this team back to their glory days, and by pivoting in the 2026 offseason, we can only hope that this time next year, we won't need to have this same conversation. But what do you think? Is there anything worth salvaging from this season for the Commanders? Let us know in the comments.